Get started.
No worries.
Thanks, Robert. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Webinar Wednesday. It's very exciting because it's our first one of 25-26 session, so you're all very welcome. My name is Kirstine Stephen, and I'm an Assistive Technology and Additional Support Needs teacher here at Call Scotland. Delighted to be joined for the first one of the year by Phil Lowry from Kaligo. Hi, Phil.
Hello.
I met Phil at BET earlier this year, where I heard all about the support that the Kaligo app provides as both a universal support and an intervention tool for our younger learners on their literacy learning journey. And I'm very excited for you all to hear more about that this afternoon. Today's session is being recorded. The recording link will follow today's webinar by email for those not able to join us live. I would ask you to please ensure that your mics remain muted throughout Phil's presentation, and if you don't want to be in the recording, then I would ask that you please pop your camera off now. If you wish to have live captions displayed throughout the webinar today, please go into your speech and language settings and turn that on, and you'll also be able to view closed captions on the YouTube recording as well. Webinar is going to run for approximately 20 minutes because Phil's promised me that he's going to speak fast. And then there will be an opportunity to ask any questions that you do have. But if you do have any questions throughout Phil's presentation today, please pop them in the chat. I'll keep an eye on it and then we'll facilitate that at the end. And I shall now pass over to Phil.
Thanks, Kirstine. I
Thank you.
appreciate you inviting me to today's webinar, and excited to be here for the first time, and also to everybody else and their time that they're affording for me to talk a little bit about Kaligo. I will speak fast. I'll probably speak very fast because there's a lot to get through. So if you don't pick up everything or I don't get through everything, please feel free to contact me at any point where I can do one-to-one more in depth. A little bit about myself. I wear many hats, but I'm also the head of curriculum and educational strategy. So I've worked in education for 17 years, predominantly in ELT, and then switched to education and product development. So I worked with the Woodcock Johnson for many years. So I know the rat, the white, the cat, the Todd, the SMT, the dash, all those assessment elements out there. And I also understand the challenges faced by SEN teachers and teachers in terms of assessing and needing AAT qualifications for psychometric evaluation and testing, and the further challenges that are always being put on teachers to do more to support children with additional needs. So worked a lot with Pathos as well. But a little bit about Kaligo first, and I'll show you two things today, which is the teacher dashboard and the student application. So Kaligo Literacy is an AI-powered educational platform designed to support the development of key literacy skills. So that includes phonics, spelling, handwriting, reading, vocabulary, and grammar. But it's inclusive and it's built with SEN in mind. So it personalizes for each learner. It also tailors to meet the needs of both students and educators that combines adaptive learning technology. Importantly, it doesn't create the content. There's a big conversation about AI out there. Our AI solution is only in relation to remediation and assisting or by reducing the cognitive overloads of those students. But the curriculum correlated content is delivered to personalized learning experience for each student through learning objectives and learning outcomes, which is something we talk about a lot because we correlate a lot to curriculums. The teacher dashboards where you obtain real-time insights into student performance. It provides individual and group strengths and pinpoints learning gaps with precision. So it enables you to make informed instructional decisions and deliver targeted interventions as well for those students. Kaligo Literacy is developed holistically. And what I mean by that is that it's a standalone core instruction solution, or it can be used and is used by neurodiverse schools across UK and Scotland, SENDs for screening, intervention and support. But with digital, we can reduce cognitive overload, as I mentioned earlier on, which is really important for those kids that need it. As and from this month, we have a screening coming into Kaligo for dysgraphia, where the AI identifies and characterizes difficulties with writing skills such as illegible handwriting, poor spelling, grammar issues, etc. So children who are dysgraphic and dyspraxic, those students need constant practice to improve hand-eye coordination and to develop their imagination. So as you know, those students have coordination difficulties. Many have perceptual problems, hence exercises should be simple and clear. So that's a little bit about Kaligo. I want to show you the teacher dashboard and I want to show you the student application. So I'm going to start sharing if that's okay. So I'm going to click on share my screen. So you can all see my screen right now, yeah? Kaligo is very easy to use, so you're all welcome to have free trials and use it with some of your students for a number of weeks. That's not a problem. We can do longer impact trials as well. That's also not a problem. In terms of the teacher dashboard, it is easy to use. Okay, so you can't break it. It doesn't matter what your level of digital expertise is. You don't even need to know about AI. I never talk about AI because you don't need to know about it. Just know that the content is created by our curriculum experts who are based in Scotland and the UK. So here's the dashboard. Okay, and as a teacher, how it works is that you will look at content, you will assign content, whether it's for core instruction or intervention. Students will do their work on iPads or Chromebooks or whatever devices they're working on, or you can do explicit instruction from your teacher dashboard or your IWB, whatever you're working on. There are three areas. So the first thing I want to show you is how dynamic in terms of supporting those students with additional needs. So if I show you down here, administration, if I click on classes and students, whenever you want to set up a new class, a new teacher, a new student, you simply click on the plus button and that sets those students up. But when I go into students, depending on their range and in terms of proficiency levels or additional needs, if I click on settings, you can change the background colors to be yellow or whatever the case may be, which it's easier for children with dyslexia to differentiate those words. There's visual guidances in there to make it clearer for those students who have visual impairments. You can change the thickness of lines, and in terms of perceiving information, you can play the instruction at different speed levels. Now, I have a son who's ADHD and he always wants to go on fast. So there's that level change that you can adapt in terms of supporting students. The sound guidance is for those neurodiverse students that if they get something right, it will play soft music. In terms of feedback, in the handwriting process, and I'm specifically speaking about handwriting, not phonics or spelling, etc., etc., but I can change, or you as a teacher can change the level of difficulty assigned to each student. So if you have really high achievers, you can have them working at greater depth. If you have a standard class and you're just using Kaligo for whatever the case may be, you're starting off using it, I would say set your difficulty level at working at expected. In terms of the handwriting process itself, as you know, it focuses on the order, the direction, and the shape of the letter. But if you click on analyze only the path of the shape, you can reduce some of that cognitive overload that students feel when they're going through the handwriting process. And I'll show you a little bit about that on the teacher dashboard. It offers some feedback as well, but it doesn't go into your overall scoring system. You can set whether a student is left-handed or right-handed. In terms of your content, if you click on Kaligo lessons, this is the UK version. There's also a Scottish version, and the Scottish version is currently adopted by Scottish Borders, Glasgow, Perth and Kinross, and Aberdeenshire. But when you go into your Scottish version and you go into your year group, so it'll be like P1, P2, P3, you'll have all your curriculum alignment content in there. So when you go into phonics, you'll have your teacher resources, which is your guides, your lesson planners. So it's very quick and easy to assign content over to students that's correlated to the curriculum. In terms of your phonics and your handwriting, it's all in there. If you click on any of the boxes in here, if you go back here, if you click on any of the teacher resources in here, you have your diplomas for your students. You click on lesson plan, anywhere where you see a page, it will offer you what your teacher guide is in terms of being able to download it, print it, or whatever the case may be. So for those new to intervention in terms of phonics or whatever the case may be, you have those guides in there, and you have more robust guides in there also. When you go into something like year one, when you think about spelling, Kaligo is based on your graphomotor skills. So handwriting is what we embed into the learning process. That's how we developed our DNA. And the reason why we do that is because we work on our fine motor skills and our graphomotor skills. And graphomotor skills are your skills to understand letter identification, word identification, which goes into your overall long-term memory. So that information is retained, and we see that from the output that we see from results from schools across UK and Europe. The easy assignments are all in there, so you have it week by week. So when you think about your statutory requirements as a teacher or an SEN and what you have to achieve in terms of your learning objectives, it's in there. You simply click on the box, you look at what that particular statutory requirement is, you add to your lessons, you click on your students if you're doing intervention, or you click on your student's classroom and you assign that over to the class. So all your curriculum is in there for easy assignment. A very quick note is that you can actually create additional content in there if you wanted to. You can create screeners for dyslexia. You'll have your dysgraphia embedded already in Kaligo, and that we can do that on another video at another time. But all your content or your self-authoring capability is built in there as well. Where it gets very useful is if you come up to the third area and you look at class analytics. If I was to go in, for example, to my first 20% nation, I'm presenting you now with 3 students, and they have been assigned a spelling task, a handwriting task, and a phonics task. It will tell you what their completion rates are. So they've all completed the exercises, and it will tell you what the success rates are. So if I was to go into a spelling exercise, and spelling exercise doesn't assess your handwriting ability. It focuses on your letter and your word identification. So it doesn't matter whether you're a good handwriter or a bad handwriter, it focuses on your ability to spell. But if I click down here, I can see a quick snapshot of student results here. Now in Chris A and Lou X, what we have is results from their assignments, but we haven't changed the difficulty settings for those. So they were standardized in terms of what we're looking to achieve. But working on the basis that we knew that Anne had an issue in terms of additional needs, we reduced that cognitive overload. So for example, I have the KN, the GN handwriting here, the spelling. If I click down to the handwriting process, I can assess everybody's handwriting ability here. So I can click on each word to see not only how well they performed, but if I press play, I can actually see how they're performing. They get 2 attempts to spell the word, okay? And what generally happens is that the correction and remediation that happens on a one-to-one basis or through group instruction or direct instruction on their devices starts to close that learning gap or prevents it if there's no learning gap there. For example, if I was to scroll down and I went across to handwriting, remember that Anne B is, we have her settings cognitively reduced. So if I was to click in here and I see that she's asked to write the letter 2 and I press play, I can see that she formed the letter 2. It looks a little bit like an S, but it isn't great, but we're only asking her to analyze the shape. Now, what you don't see here that you will see in the iPad when I show you in a couple of seconds is that after she performs her exercise, a pop-up screen comes up to tell her how she should have performed it and to give her a mirror image of how she should be progressing the tool. So that correction and remediation is happening. So she would have looked at that. So we can have a look at how she formed, and we can look at her next attempt, and we can see that she's already improved. I'm going to quickly jump over to a PowerPoint to show you some of the results. So results have been done, impact trials, not by us, but by schools and councils themselves, and they sent us the results. So this is one student that was in the handwriting process over 3 months. You'll see that's quite illegible, but if you look on the right-hand side, as he starts to write over 3 months, his spelling starts to change, his handwriting and legibility starts to change, and you can see that it's a lot more legible with better use of preposition and more comprehension coming in there. And we're combining those 4 strands of literacy, so reading, writing, speaking, and listening. When I come down, just to give you a couple of quick examples as well, one student here, somewhat illegible. Over on the right-hand side, the frog hops to the pond, do not drop the cup. So we see better spacing, we see better spelling, etc. In this scenario, this was based over a 5-month period. Over on the left-hand side, not great spelling, but over on the right-hand side, we can see over that 5-month period, their acceleration in terms of their handwriting process has greatly increased, and that's the results we get back from those impact trials. So she's moved on to cursive writing, quite legible, more comprehension, better use of preposition. So these results are really speaking for themselves, and we see them in almost every schools. This is particularly from Perth and Kinross. They did an impact trial. This is the results of 2 9-year-old students. So this is what their handwriting looked like in February. This is what their handwriting looked like in April. And it's the same result down here. I'm going to quickly jump back to I just need to hide that and close that one. So that's the teacher dashboard. Okay, now there's a lot of information here that you can view. I'm just showing you a snapshot in terms of comparisons. You can do performance reviews of how they were performing in the first term versus the second term. You could have 2 students side by side, one with great proficiency, one that has special educational needs. They both work together side by side, and they'll never know what their deficits or challenges are, or their high proficiency levels are. It's quite inclusive, and it adapts to every single student. But you can come in and you can check verbs, you can check features of a text, how well they perform in terms of their verbs and their nouns, etc., etc. So when this populates, you see exactly where students have problems and where they don't have problems. It's used a lot for intervention with SENs across UK and Scotland as well. So there's a lot more to the teacher dashboard, but for the purposes of time, I'm going to click in to show you actually how it works and how it remediates and support those students in the handwriting process in terms of assessing children's phonological ability and supporting their learning path for phonics, etc., etc. So I'm just opening up the application, and I'm going to click on. So when you want to assign students some work, if I was to click on my school, so I go first 20%, I click on, say, Chris B. I create my QR codes, and you can do classroom QR codes. They also have the ability to create schoolwork to take home. So I'm going to share my iPad now, and I should switch over. Should come up. There we go. So you should be seeing my device that I'm working on. Okay, over on the right hand side, you have your assignments that has been assigned by the teacher or by a special educational needs assistant, whatever the case may be. I'm just going to show you a little bit about the AI first. So in terms of what I was mentioning around dysgraphia and dyspraxia, supporting that instruction and that guidance, I'm just going to pop up the sound here. You'll recognize this from a handwriting book. When you're teaching handwriting or spelling, you're doing it in a classroom. We expect kids to learn at the same rates. Unfortunately, that's not the case. We all learn at different levels. But if I was to go
trace loop following the pattern.
If I was to go in here, and not all of it is AI generated, there's a lot of recordings in here, but I'm using my stylus, and I can also use my finger for the younger age group as well. But what I want to do is once I click on it, I get a blue dot. If I move, that blue dot moves. So it's providing me with some guidance in terms of doing my loops. So very quickly, I will do my loops. And I'm going to get a result. And this is how the AI works. The AI picks up how well I perform the exercise. And it says, okay, you've performed the exercise quite well. We're going to challenge you more. So working memory is built into Kaligo as well, and complexity. So I come along here, I've got my blue dots and my dotted line. So I start to trace. So I've got my assistants in there. I perform quite well. Now, at some point, it's getting more difficult. So as a student, I come along and I'm forgetting what it was exactly where I should be performing my loops. Straight away, the AI should pick up that there's an issue going on here. And as you go forward, it gives them a bad result. And what's going to happen is it's going to bring them back and it's going to rescaffold that child. So it's bringing them back in order to support remediation. He still performed badly. So it starts to rescaffold and bring that student back to support in terms of progressing forwards. And what happens is when you see the end results after being given that one-to-one remediation, it supports their literacy outcomes. When you click on, for example, in the writing process, if I was to click on space, and there's autonomy here for the student, now you can see the letter A being performed at the top. So as a student, I can click on that again and see how it's formed, or I can play the verbal instruction. Okay.
The models.
And I can have the word just pronounced to me by touching on this button here. But if I was to write the letter A, that looks like an A, and in a handwriting book, it would look like an A. But when I click correct, it's going to identify that I didn't perform the A correctly. When I click on this question mark
Look
here,
at the model.
It shows me in greater detail the three-stroke formation of the A and the order in which I should have performed it. And it will show you how you performed the A. When a student plays that side by side, they start to see where the errors are occurring. So it starts to give that guidance. Now, for example, if I perform the L and I perform each letter that I'm being asked to form here, I'll try to do this quickly. And I'll go with an N. Okay, what the AI is going to pick up is that the student hasn't performed the A and the N correctly. So rather than bring them back and remediate for the whole word, it identifies where the learning gap is or where the struggle is. So as the student moves forward, they'll only be brought into where that learning gap has occurred. So I come in, I look at the instruction as a student usually does, and this is where you see the progression and the learning gap close because of the one-to-one. You'll see after I finish this A, it's going to bring me straight into the N letter. So it's going to skip the L-I-E, okay? And then it brings me on to the N, so on and so forth. In terms of the spelling application, when I quickly go into the spelling application, you'll see that I'm going to write this very fast, very quickly. You can write it whatever way you want. You could be a good handwriter, bad handwriter. It doesn't really matter. As long as I write the word, it's going to pick up what the letters are. But you can see that the F isn't a great F. The E looks more like an I. The A is a no. But it will identify their ability to spell and it will give them some guidance as well. If I spell it incorrectly, where it starts to support the students, if I spell it phonetically wrong, it will tell you what you left
one
out.
Or more incorrect letters.
And where you've done an incorrect letter, and it'll give you one more attempt. It will also break it down by syllable and by phonics down below in terms of your blending.
Try again.
Okay, so I get a second chance to do it. Okay, so it's important to note that the spelling doesn't assess your writing ability. You've got grammar. You can integrate your lessons.
Correctly.
Okay, so useful for intervention when students aren't picking up certain areas. You've got more engaging, circling, and gamification clicked in there.
Following sentence.
So I can click in there. So I go here. All this information in terms of what I'm getting right or getting wrong goes back to that teacher dashboard that you just saw. And that's how you get to see strengths and weaknesses and pinpoints exactly where students are going wrong. The writing is scaffolded, so you have your lead ins, your lead outs, your bottom joins, etc., etc. You have your year one math there. You can create year one math. If I quickly show you a little bit of reading comprehension. So reading comprehension can be taught explicitly. So a teacher can read teacher can teach the reading by having them read along, read aloud, read alone, or they can listen to it. It's really up to how the teacher wants to teach the instruction. But what we want to get the students to do is to practice their reading and then assess their comprehension and their vocabulary assessment. So I'll do the listing piece. So if I click on this, it will tell the student what they have to do.
To move on to the next part.
And again, if I am a teacher, I can do it from my dashboard, not a problem.
Kalikat goes to the museum. Kalikat was in Egypt with and Dad. Today, they were visiting the Egyptian Museum in Cairo.
Now, I'll put it on pause, but a student or a teacher can scroll, stop, ask somebody to read out, whatever the case may be. But what we're trying to achieve here is not just get them engaged in content that they want to read, but also assess their comprehension.
With his family.
So they will be asked a range of questions based on what they read or what they have understood in terms of their vocabulary range. Over here, they can play, so a student can actually listen.
A mummy. A camel.
So there's always the supports there, and there's visual representations in there as well.
What does Kalikat find on the floor?
So they'll be asked a range of questions, then they'll get to their vocabulary assessment.
Select the correct answer.
So I can listen to it.
A doorway that can be opened or shut. A figure made from stone or metal. A long piece of paper rolled up.
Let's do that.
A long piece
Almost.
of paper rolled
Try
up.
So
again.
they've got one more chance to do it again. So you're assessing their reading capabilities. If I quickly show you phonics, if I go into phase 1, it is fully aligned. You've got all your screeners in there per your DFE. You've got all your reading resources. They're printable as well. So if I go into phase 2, for example, phonics is built on 4 pillars, as it should be. It has your review and revisit from your previous section that you learned in phonics, and then it has your learning, your application, and then your assessments as well. So, for example, if I was to go into revisit and review, and I go into rhyming, this is what a student is being asked.
With the others. Can you find the odd one out?
So I know there's maybe 5 students in the classroom, and as we know, 1 if not 2, and every student has special learning difficulties. I can send them into like a certain section or workstation to work on this.
Lamb. Jam. Sun.
So I've got to pick the odd one out. Again, that information, if you're getting it right or wrong, will come back at a quick view on your teacher dashboard. It builds in complexity as well.
With the others. Can you find the odd one out?
Our phonics program, we're actually working on recording it with a Scottish dialect to catch those nuances in terms of. Yeah,
you knew I was going to ask you that. Yeah, you are up. Yeah.
I haven't even got started. But yeah, there is a lot in Kaligo, so I was kind of worried that I wouldn't get through everything that I wanted to get through. But look, I totally get it.
You did very well, Phil. I have said to people I didn't want to stop you in full flow either. So I did say, please put any questions into the chat. So while anybody is thinking about any questions they might have, that was one of the questions actually that I had. Was there plans for integrating any Scottish voices in there?
There is, yeah. So we're developing the phonics and the reading elements with a Scottish accent for that listening comprehension, those nuances in terms of the phonemes and graphemes. Yeah. We'll further align anything that we create for the Scottish region, basically because we're in so many regions now that it makes sense to correlate all the content in phonics. And you guys have your own Scottish platform. So yeah, we also have ASR coming in, so audio speech recognition, where students will be able to speak into Kaligo, so read the story, and it will measure their reading comprehension with fluency, and where they have phonological deficits. And the other thing we have coming in is obviously text dictation, which is for the upper grades in terms of composition and creative writing, etc. But there's a lot in there, and this isn't going to show everybody exactly how they can use it. It's simply just an introduction to how versatile it can be across literacy.
Do you want to pop your contact details into the chat there, Phil, just for anyone that might want to get in touch with you? I actually had another question, though, to put to you. Well, no one else seems to have any questions for you today. When you were demonstrating spelling, the words were the words that were there were all in uppercase. Is it possible you were able to write in lowercase and it was recognizing them, but is there can you use lowercase? Can you have it set to lowercase, I think?
Yep. So this is why probably it's probably a little bit short to show you every single feature, but as part of onboarding, we bring you through that. So you can change how it's presented, you can hide the words, or you can actually, if you wanted to, you record your own set of words. So if you're working on prefixes or suffixes, you can actually record your own voice and say, kids, this is what I want you to do today. Go write the spelling. And it will hide the word and they'll hear the teacher's voice instead.
Oh, that's great. Super. Well, Phil's just popping his contact details into the chat there. Thank you for that. And I'm afraid, folks, that is our time up. So please do get in touch with Phil if you would like to find out more about it. Phil, thank you very much for presenting today and giving up your time. Thanks everyone for joining us. We're back at 4 o'clock next Wednesday with Adam Newson from CareScribe. So have a good evening, everyone.
Thanks all. Thanks.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Phil. Bye.